Lots of questions on the Bosch motor system on e-mountain bikes in the last 12 months. And a lot of people have been wondering when the new Bosch motor is coming out. Well, you need to wait no longer. We have got the full story right here on today's Ask EMBN.
Well, kicking things off, exactly that question, Steve. Lucas C has been in touch. He's saying, you've been talking about the new Bosch. Should I wait or should I just buy now?
Well, let's not beat around the bush. Let's have a look at the new Bosch motor before we discuss that question. So Bosch have just launched the all new Performance CX motor, and as you can see, it is significantly different to the old motor. Now, a lot of you guys have been telling us there have been issues with the old motor, such as mud clogging up front because of the small chainring, and also some of the bearing issues on the drive side. The new motor then, well, as you can see, it is significantly smaller than the old motor. It's actually 48% smaller than this old motor, and you can see there, it almost fits in my hand. In terms of the weight, it's gone down to 2.9 kilograms. That's 25% saving in weight alone on that motor. So you can imagine what impact that will have on the bikes. And I'm sure there will be a load of bikes coming on the market in the next few months. In terms of the torque, it still has 75 Newton meters of torque. Now, part of the weight saving is due to the fact that Bosch have gone from a alloy casting to a magnesium one. So that's where all that weight has been saved. You guys have been telling us that there's been some issues with the resistance when you get past 25 kilometers an hour. Now, Bosch say that has been reduced significantly on the new motor, as has the noise levels. They don't say that it's a silent motor, but it's considerably quieter than the old one. So as you can see, or rather as you can't see, is the new motor has a big chainring up front, so that's going to affect its performance in muddy conditions. It's going to be way better, I do imagine. Right, what about the assist levels on the new motor? Well, they remain the same. There are 4 levels of assist: Eco, Tour, eMTB, and of course Turbo mode. But they have changed in their amounts. Eco goes from 50 to 60%, Tour goes from 120 to 140, and of course Turbo goes from 300% assist to 340% assist. So that probably contributes to what Bosch say is a far more punchy motor. Right, I cannot wait to get out on a bike and see what this new motor is like. So let's have a look at the noise levels and also how it performs past 25 kilometers an hour. Now, I was actually quite surprised how quiet that old Performance CX motor was. And that's the problem with giving opinions on motor sound levels, because it actually varies from motors of the same type. You could have one Performance CX motor and another one, and they might give out different sound levels. Also, it depends on how much load that motor is under, and of course, the age of the motor. Now, there's actually very little in it between the old motor and the new motor. But what is noticeable is how the different bikes perform when you go past 25 kilometers an hour. When you go from 23 on the new motor past 25 and up to 26, 27, it is quite seamless, and it's actually really, really quiet past 25 Ks. Now, I wouldn't say there's no resistance on the new motor, but it's significantly less than on the old one. Yeah, Chris, lots of people ask about the new Bosch motor. They ask about all kinds of motors, actually. Should you wait for new ones to come out? Should you just buy one now? I always tell people, look, just get on with your life. Go and buy yourself an e-mountain bike, get in the hills, have a great time, and then worry about it after. Because they're all, I mean, I'll be totally honest with you guys, I have a great time on any e-mountain bike.
Exactly. I think they're all, you know, as long as the motor's reliable and it does the job in hand, then you're just going to have a great time. So get out there, buy one ASAP.
Exactly. Now, this from Zachary Henry. Hi guys, I'm in between getting the Trek Powerfly FS or LT.
Right.
When the added weight the e-bike has, do you recommend running the longer travel model? I run some pretty rough terrain. I'm a beginner at MTB, but I want a bike that'll grow with me. Is the 160mm travel recommended, or can I be happy with 130mm model? I'm 5'7", 108 pounds. Crikey. I'd always go for the long travel.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a great thing about e-bikes. I think with a standard bike, you always have that compromise of like, a big travel bike is going to descend better, but it's not going to climb as well as a short travel bike, and vice versa. The short travel will climb better, don't descend. But I think the great thing about e-bikes is there is no compromise. You can run big tyres, you can run big travel, you name it. an e-bike is,
I mean,
you know,
30
perfect.
mil, right? You're talking 30. I mean, that's about 30 mil, right?
Yeah.
That's about 30 mil. So it's not really that much. And the weight between the 130 mil bike and 160 is pretty minimal. So, and if I think your point there is you've answered your question yourself. Is you want the bike to grow with you.
Yeah.
I think I'd go for the longer travel.
Longer travel, yeah, as well as the longer travel itself in the suspension. Also, the geometry is slightly different on those bikes as well, on the LT compared to the FS. So, yeah, I'll go with the long travel.
You know, we've done 130 climbing versus 160 climbing versus the Levo versus the Ken Evo. If that helps in your decision making, have a watch of this video, which we did in Spain last year.
Right, before I hit you with the times, how did it feel, the two bikes?
Yeah, look, Levo versus Ken Evo. The Levo definitely felt a livelier bike, both uphill and downhill. But that's only to be expected, really. It's got a carbon chassis, it's got carbon wheels. But I think you need to be careful between liveliness. It was just more feedback through the system. Ken Evo, on the other hand, whew, oh my God.
Like a monster truck.
Like a monster truck, less feedback, a smoother ride. But I got to say, I was murdering myself. I felt like going up that hill there.
Yeah,
honestly,
big bike.
I just felt like the Levo was a faster bike uphill.
But could you ever imagine pedaling a normal 180mm travel bike up that hill?
Not a hope in hell.
You wouldn't do it, would you?
No.
John Tiller, he's been in touch. He's saying, I heard you say 12.5 stones. What are you talking about? Rocks? Boulders? Are you talking about mining or mountain biking?
Well, mining, obviously.
We love to
Diamond mining.
waste stuff here in stones, peach stones, plums,
great.
you name it. We do.
Do you know what? It's a good point. Some people are a bit precious about weights and measures. You know, especially when it comes to kilos versus pounds and stones, or inches and millimeters and centimeters. Yeah, we should do conversions more often. But moving on to the next question, Chris.
Yeah, Paulie 600. Hi guys, two friends and myself are flying to Scotland.
Can I ask this? This looks like this has got your name all over it. Hi guys, two friends and myself are flying to Scotland in a few weeks for a long weekend road trip and would like to include a nice e-bike ride for a day or two. We start our trip in Edinburgh. Do you have any recommendation where is a good place to go? We prefer flowy trails and nice scenery rather than technical trails, and obviously need to rent e-bikes. Thank you for your great show. Cheers, Danielle. Well, there you go.
Just the man to answer that question.
These guys are the men to ask about that. First of all, rental. Where are you going to rent an e-mountain bike from?
Alpine Bikes. They do a good rental service here. They do like a silver
Where is
service.
Alpine Bikes?
It is in the Tweed Valley, and there's loads of really good riding around there. Obviously, Innerleith and Peebles. We just did the Tweed Love Festival up there, and the
What
trails
bikes have they
are
got?
amazing. I checked it out. I think it was cubes and things like that. There's loads of different levels of bikes, but Alpine Bikes is probably the place you want to hire an e-bike for.
And of course, loads of trails in Innerleith, right?
Exactly, like right on the doorstep there. Probably Edinburgh hasn't got lots around. Obviously, amazing tourist spot, but there isn't that much great riding actually around Edinburgh.
Some great bars though.
But yeah, I think you need to head to the Tweed Valley. It's about 50 minutes out of Edinburgh, down the road.
I highly recommend going to Glentress Trail Centre.
Yeah,
that's a fantastic place for flowy trails. Really nice cafe there.
Yeah.
So pick your bike up in Innerleith and Alpine and go to Glentress.
Yeah.
It's only like a couple of miles down the road.
Exactly, loads of riding down there. Those bikes will be dialed.
Great. Honestly, any questions about locations, and I'm sure there's somewhere in the world who will be able to help you guys with advice on trails.
So Adam Westbrook, he's saying, we all know flying is a no-go with batteries and hiring them seems to be impossible. My Cube Stereo 160 has an internal battery. Would it do any harm using the bike if I was to take it abroad without the battery? Is the battery any part of the strength of the down tube?
I couldn't answer that question 100%, but I know people who do take their bikes, like Sam Pilgrim took his bike to the Hebrides, didn't he?
Yeah,
his battery out.
Yeah, so I would probably fly, if you can't take your battery with you and it is an internal one, you might be able to get a battery abroad, but I'd obviously research it first. But if you're
I think Adam just wants to ride the bike with a battery.
I would probably just err towards riding a normal bike, possibly.
Right.
It's going to be easier to ride, isn't it, without, an e-bike.
It is.
Without a
It
battery.
depends. I mean, it also depends on the motor in there as well. But maybe have a look into like hiring bikes when you go abroad,
hiring
or
e-bikes over there.
or e-bike or a non-e-bike. So yeah, I think it's the drag. I think
It's
in
not
the
going to be
motor.
an enjoyable experience, I don't think, anyway.
Right, this from Robert Guitar. A high question for you. I like to measure the effort I put into my rides and Strava segments with my e-mountain bike. Only time and heart rate are not good pointers of the e-bike, since you can vary the amount of battery use each time. He also goes on to say, should a power meter be a good idea? Well, I think heart rate is a good indicator, actually, and you can still put in a high heart rate, even whether it's in eco mode, trail mode, or boost or turbo mode. You decide on the power input, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to the watts, some systems, like say the Specialized system, has got a little display which you can buy, which shows how much watts you're putting into the system, as well as the watts the bike is putting into it. And more of these companies are actually showing the rider input as well as the motor input. Crank meter, I not really got much experience with crank meters.
Yeah, well, they work on a strain gauge. So I spoke to the GMBN tech guys, and they're saying that is probably the most accurate way to do it. Actually works on the actual cranks itself, and it's isolated from the motor. So you would get a true reading from yourself, not including the motor. So yeah, would be a really good way of monitoring it.
Yeah, when I do rides, I try to ride in a heart rate zone. Usually zone. If you're going to murder yourself, you need to be riding in zone 4 or 5. And you know these things, these Garmins, you can now connect that. You've got your heart rate there. You go on a ride. You can do no end of fine detail, and then you get back home. You can see what heart rate zones you've been working in. If you're under, you go and push it a little bit harder the next time. And yeah, if you want to go harder, you also back off your assistance level on the e-bike. Go from trail mode to eco mode. There's no end of things you can do to change the workout on your e-mountain bike. Hi guys, Mac Mateo says, I love every bit of my 2018 Canyon Spectral On 8. I'm considering swapping the EX1 for something with more gears. X1 Eagle in search for better cadence and hence range. Any suggestions based on your direct experience with the Spectral On? I can't seem to figure out which the freehub version or the XO1 cassette I should choose.
Well, from my personal experience with EX1, I don't know if I speak for you, Steve, but it is quite a talked about subject, really. It's an 8-speed cassette, but there is quite a big jump between 3rd and 4th. So you find yourself on a hill and you'll either be spinning out crazy and you click it down a gear. There's quite a big jump. I don't forget I can't remember the actual ratio. So quite a lot of people do swap them out for the like a bigger 11 or 12-speed cassette.
Like an NX Eagle 12-speed?
Yeah, exactly. The actual EX1 is a standard Shimano splined freehub, so any cassette that fits on that would be a good choice. But bearing in mind you're going to be going from an 8-speed system to an 11 or 12-speed, so you're going to have to change the shifter and the mech included in all of that. And the great thing about the EX1 is that it actually shifts just one gear at a time. I tried it out on my Canyon actually. I've gone to the Eagle, and you can actually shift 3 gears at once with one paddle shift, so it is quite hard. You'd be jumping around on the gears. If you're not really careful, it's quite easy to break a chain with stepping away from that.
But isn't it just a simple case of adaptation?
Yeah, you can adapt.
I mean, the Levo uses 11 speed. I mean, some of the other bikes use 12 speed. I mean, it's just about just getting used to it, right?
Yeah, it's either that, or you could maybe, if you want to change the actual ratios of it, or you could maybe just looking into changing the front chainring. That's going to give you a wider range of gear. Well, it's going to give you a lower. The only thing you're going to gain from going to Eagle is that bigger cassette. I think that's a 50. Is it 52 from the Eagle? But it's not a massive upgrade. I don't know.
And there's the cost.
There's a lot of cost going, but not a lot of gain.
Cost implication as well. EX1 is not cheap, right?
No.
NX Eagle is slightly cheaper. So you're going to wear your cassette, derailleur and shifter at some time on your e-mountain bike because of the increased use of it. So it's a serious question, and I think cost comes into it as well.
I think get the mileage from your EX1 and then maybe think when that's all worn out, maybe that's the time to be changing it.
Absolutely. And this one from Just Happy Fellow. Favourite tyres? ? Oh, wow. That's massive.
Depends what you're doing, I suppose.
That's massive.
I think for just normal trail use, I've just been using like the high roller and the DHF and DHR. I know they're not specifically actual down, a cross-country tyre, but they work great.
I mean, Maxxis Assegai Storms, sorry, not Storms, Maxxis Assegais or Shorties. I mean, I tend to use the Shorties a lot of the time because it's always wet and muddy here in Wales. So It depends where you live.
Yeah.
Totally depends where you live. Matthew Hall, hi Steve and Chris, I'm about to order a new bike. I can't decide between the Canyon Spectral 7 and the YT Decoy base level. I prefer the YT, but the horror stories I hear about carbon frames being brittle, etc. is putting me off a bit. In your opinion, do you think carbon is a good option for an all-mountain rider who's often landing heavy and crashing, or would the alloy Canyon be a better option? Thanks. Look, listen, there's I've said it a zillion times, there's good carbon, there's bad carbon, there's good alloy and there's bad alloy, there's good steel and there's bad steel. You could be unlucky, you could hit something, and it's I mean, with crashing, I mean, you know about crashing, Chris.
I've crashed a few times.
It's luck, right?
I think it
can be lucky, you can be unlucky.
Yeah, I think it depends on like how well you sort of look after your bike, even just transporting them. You know, if you're chucking them in the back of a van or using, I know not necessarily many uplifts, but if you do chuck them in the back of your van, you've got another bike clashing against it. I prefer to have an aluminium bike, I think, for crashing and longevity. I think a carbon bike is great, but you definitely need to be taking a lot of care of it.
I think, if you're the kind of, comes down to the kind of person you are. When it comes down to the actual structure, I mean, if you've seen World Cup downhill racing, Greg Minnaar snapped his Santa Cruz V10 in half only a few years ago. I've seen countless people snap alloy bikes in half on a World Cup downhill circuit. But I think Chris is right. What type of person are you when it comes to maintaining your bike and how you transport? That's a good point, actually, Chris. Yeah, I need to get some sponge.
Well, there you go. That's the end of the show. Love hearing your questions on eMBN. So drop us some more in the comments box below if you've got a question. Hashtag Ask EMBN, and we'll get back to you ASAP.
Absolutely. And if you've got any comments on the questions on this week's show, don't forget to get involved in those too. In the meantime, if you want to stay with us, have a look at this video down here, and don't forget to give us a thumbs up and subscribe by hitting the globe.